Massachusetts ballot question 1, the Vehicle Data Access Requirement Initiative, more colloquially known as Right to Repair, was overwhelmingly adopted on Election Day, with over 75% of voters checking that yes box. For those of you not from the Bay State, here is a little bit of summary and background. So the initiative is actually a follow-up to a 2012 question under the same name. This follow-up question is closing some loopholes related to technology, specifically telematic repair systems within cars, which is updated technology that is in a lot of new vehicles starting in 2019-2020. The original ballot measure was all about allowing local mechanics and repair shops to access the same information that the car manufacturer does, and this ballot initiative is simply pushing that a little bit further to incorporate the new technologies involved in newer cars. To put it simply, voting yes would require manufacturers like Toyota and Subaru to allow local mechanics to access this data through an open data platform, and a no vote would not make this a requirement, which would likely shut down independent repair shops in future years due to increasing technology in vehicles. But what makes this ballot initiative worth paying attention to? I mean, it wasn't as controversial as the presidential election. This measure is important in that it deals intensely with issues regarding data privacy and access to information. As technology continues to increase at a rapid speed, it's going to become more and more common for questions about technology, security, and data privacy to appear on your ballot. In addition, as technology increases, there's going to be more and more loopholes in existing legislation, like what happened with the 2012 ballot measure. Right to repair is just one of a growing number of issues related to data security and privacy, meaning that it could serve as a very useful case study for future elections involving technology. Let's start by getting an idea of how these campaigns operated, the yes and the no side. As a preface, both sides relied almost entirely on television advertisement, so all of my examples are going to be from televised ads. The yes side was funded mostly by independent manufacturers and local mechanics, such as O'Reilly Auto Parts, for example. The ads relied a lot on identification factors to reach the audience, and the main point of these ads was to say that voting no on this law would hurt the community because local mechanics would not be able to service your car. You would have to take them to the big manufacturers. To relate to the audience, the spokespeople in these ads were very common people like moms and local mechanics with Boston accents and people that those watching could very easily relate to, especially as Massachusetts residents. And now for the no. Funded mainly by car manufacturers like Toyota and Subaru, the ads were mainly third-person storytelling style ads, and a lot of the times it focused on showing one person doing something with their car resulting in something terrible happening to them. And the argument was that the Right to Repair law of 2020 would allow the local mechanics to access data that was extremely personal to you, and this data could easily get leaked and be used against you and cause immense danger. So how could the campaigns be improved? Let's start with the yes side. In my essay, I suggested that the yes side could do a lot better by focusing on stopping the spread of disinformation by the no side. As I said before, almost all of the ads for the no side were so focused on fear appeals that the yes side actually never even addressed. They didn't disprove any of the quotes they were using or say that these statements about domestic assault and stalking were incorrect. For people with limited knowledge about technology, the advertisements on the no side were extremely convincing and frankly terrifying. I mean, nobody wants to be killed by foreign spies that got your access from a local mechanic. Now for the no side. Messaging could be improved to be way less blatant. It was so obvious that these advertisements were fear appeals that people familiar with political advertisements might just brush them aside. In addition, spokespeople instead of these third-person POV advertisements would be way stronger, as you'd be able to connect directly with your audience as opposed to just scaring them with a story. As we talked about in class, in order to reach specific target audiences, it's important to connect with them over shared values, and these advertisements that were fear-based just missed that mark. A piece of advice for both of these campaigns is to simply expand. Relying entirely on televised advertisements does not always work, and you're not always able to reach all your audiences. I would suggest moving on social media, specifically Facebook, as the target audience seems to be older, people driving cars in suburban areas. Groups like mothers and grandparents would be much easier to reach out to over Facebook and build that sort of personal connection on that platform. Both campaigns did have a Twitter feed, but they were extremely small and not well managed, so expanding on Twitter could be great to reach a younger demographic as well. Overall, this campaign is important in that it represents how technology is going to be represented in election cycles and news media. Other ballot questions relating to technology can look back on what Right to Repair yes side did correctly and where the no side failed. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. If you have any questions, please let me know.